From Top of the Pops to Holes in Me Socks. I'm Martin Bell, and this is the Belsy Podcast. The Belsy Podcast. The Belsy Podcast. The Belsy Podcast. Welcome to episode 3, where I meet up with my old friend, Golden Tonsils himself, Mr Rick Astley. The Belsy Podcast.
The Belsy Podcast.
Got to talk to you about one of the greatest singers I've ever worked with, great songwriter as well. I was fortunate enough to work with him 20 odd years ago. And he's a lovely, lovely man and a very, very talented singer and songwriter. And he's just everywhere at the moment, and it's just so wonderful. And I'm so pleased for him. He joins me now. The wonderful Rick Astley. How are you, Rick?
I'm all right. 20 odd years ago, Martin. That doesn't sound very good, though, does it?
Do you know what? I thought it was about 10 years ago, and then I start looking back, and and think, wow, it was. Time
flies. I was actually just remembering back to yourself and myself going to Old Trafford actually when Teddy was playing up there, and we're not going to the game because it was a bad game for United, but good memories.
That sort of leads me on to really your career in a way, because if you think about it, listen, I knew that you was a good songwriter anyway. Even when we both wrote a couple of songs, I was so impressed at how you sort of you steamed straight into it, and then and I'm just wondering, really, you probably did that, didn't you? You took a few years and said, I don't want to do maybe the out and out pop tracks that you was doing before, which was great, and I know that you're proud of that, and we're all proud of that as well. But afterwards, you start writing songs yourself, and you've taken your time to come back with your career, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I also think, to be honest, I got a bit disillusioned, and I think I got sick of it, and I'm pretty sure everyone got sick of me as well. And so there's a moment where you have to, there's a back door, and there's a little exit sign on it, and you think, I think I'm just going to nip out there while everyone's looking at Take That or whoever else.
Yeah.
And just walk away calmly and quietly. And, and I didn't, if I'm honest, I didn't actually think I was ever going to do it again, even gigging. I didn't gig for years.
No.
I kind of fell back into gigging, to be honest, and that was because I had lots of offers to come and sing my old tunes in different parts of the world, and I just kind of said politely no. And then I got an offer to go to Japan, and our daughter and my wife Lena, as you know, they really, really wanted to do that and go to Japan and experience that in a nice way, which is obviously the way you do it when you're on tour. You get looked after and everything. So I kind of, they put my arm up my back and we went to Japan, and I just loved it. And I think because it was so far away and I was a bit jet lagged, and it's just such an amazing, completely different world to the one that I'm used to. Yeah. I have been there a few times, but it's still, it's totally different. There was like a little light that just went on that said, you can do this, but you're allowed to say no to things. And I think going back those years when we first met and what have you, I was coming out of that period, emotionally and mentally of being really famous, if you like.
Yeah, no, you're
and
right,
then not being famous and going, this is really nice. I've loved being famous. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely loved it, and I'm grateful for it. And I'll never look at it in a negative way, because it did some amazing things for me and it has given me a great life.
Yeah.
But I think when you sort of step away from it and then people forget you pretty quickly, you suddenly think, well, I love music. How can I balance it? How can I go out and do gigs and even make a bit of music and have a bit of spotlight when I want it and when, but just be able to turn it off a bit. And I think that's where I am right now. I can do things. I can play to, decent sized audiences. And then literally going for coffee this morning, no one bats an eyelid. And if someone does, it's like, oh, hello, how you doing? And that's it. And that's it. It's amazing. And I think, I just think what happened with me was a bit too much too soon, if you know what I mean. And I think it kind of, I was kind of glad to kind of walk away a little bit, and I'm just really, really grateful and happy where I am right now. It's kind of amazing, to be honest, after all these years.
But I think, listen, I know that little period of time for you was, that sort of in the middle where you didn't want that sort of limelight, but you must be proud now that people are buying the songs that you're writing.
Oh, I am, and I make them in the garage, Martin. That's the other funny thing. I bought gear over the years, and I had a proper studio at one point and all the rest of it.
Yeah, well, I used to come there when that was fantastic.
Exactly, yeah. But I just, when we moved the last time, I thought I'm just going to put something together at home, and I converted the garage, and it's a nice garage, don't get me wrong, it's all lovely, but it is a garage.
It's not a council estate, is it?
Well, and I make records in there, and I kind of think, I think, bizarrely, it's like being a kid again. It's kind of like I've got a back bedroom studio and I do it all. I have it mixed properly, obviously, and engineered properly because, you've got to do that. But in terms of me playing it, writing it, all of that lot, I do it. And I absolutely love it. And they're my records because of that.
Yeah.
And I think, especially with that first one, when I turned 50, the one that was called 50,
yeah,
I just think in certain ways it just connected with people because there was a bit of empathy and a bit of kind of like, good on you for having a go. Do you know what I mean? So, I don't know. You can never tell, can you? That's the really weird thing. We've been around records and producer friends and people and seen things, and you think there is no way on earth that is not going to be massive.
Yeah.
And it isn't.
Yeah.
And then you all go, how did that not happen? And then other times you hear this record that's like this quirky, just bizarre record, number one all around the world, whatever, and there's just no rhyme or reason to it. So you've just got to kind of have fun with it and do what you want to do because you can't calculate it. You can't put it into a computer and come up with a hit. You just have to do it and see what happens. So.
Yeah. I mean, listen, your voice has always sold it as well. I remember,
thank you.
Us doing a vocal, and you said, "No, you do it," and I said, "No, you do it," and you did the vocal, and I went, "Wow, it's just so warm and rich, your voice," and it, and it is, and strangely enough, I think I sent you a message. I was on my way to a gig, and a song come on. I thought, like this track, nice start. Like the vocal, that's good. I'm going to Shazam it. Shazammed it, and your face come up, and I went, "Oh, I can't believe it!" And I look at that, and I think it's wonderful that your voice can still sell it as well. Because do you think some of the artists of today it's just, I suppose with some of the shows, it's diluted good singers. Some of the talent shows.
Yeah, to some degree, but I actually think I do agree with you. By the way, I think there was definitely a whole swathe of time where having a good voice sort of didn't matter in pop music because we got loads of trickery to get away with it. But I think right now, and I think for a few years, let's say Rag and Bone Man, Sam Smith, Adele, obviously, some of the biggest artists in the world. Even Ed Sheeran, who's everyone knows him for being this great songwriter and like he goes on stage with just a guitar. If you actually listen to him sing, he's an amazing singer. And I think we're in a period where some of the biggest artists, and I think pretty much everyone just mentioned is from the UK right there, which is amazing as well. Actually, but some of the biggest artists in the world, and they're kind of slightly. I'm going to use the term old school, and I hope that's not offensive. What I mean by that is there's a real song there with someone singing the heart out, and I think that's kind of interesting at the moment. And someone like Adele or some of the other artists I just mentioned appeal to really young people and also your grandma. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's, I don't know, it's kind of music has never been more bizarre and upside down than it is today, and obviously it's because of the internet. It's streaming services and all the rest of it, and the way we all listen, the way we come across new stuff, the way we make our own playlists, or a friend will just say, "Oh, listen to this. There's 28 songs there. You've never heard any of them before. Have a listen to all of them." It's kind of a different world, and I think that has brought a whole new thinking emotionally as well. It's not just a head thing; it's a heart thing. As to how we absorb the music that we do. And very often, I think, I come across things just either on the radio as well, sometimes as well, for sure. And I just sort of think, wow, I'm going to love that artist forever. That's just amazing. Do you know what I mean? And we did that by going to record stores and asking the guy, would he play it while we were in the shop? Do you know what I mean? Sometimes, which is prehistoric to think, you know what I mean? But it's, I don't know. I don't think people are ever going to change their love of music. It's just the way you listen to it.
Morning Bells.
The other one that's we've got to ask you about is this great fixation with the Foo Fighters. I mean, that must be great because I know that you love your music. You're a great drummer. You're a good musician, and you've sort of. You're jumping on their shows, aren't you? And they're never going to give you up.
I mean, the first one, basically what happened was we about 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was like my third or fourth trip to Japan in the last sort of decade. And we got to play on this festival, which for starters was a bit nuts because Foo Fighters are headlining, so how's that possible? Yeah. But then when I looked at it, it was a really, really eclectic festival. There was all kinds of everything going on everywhere. And I've always been a bit of a Foo Fighters fan anyway. I mean, I say bit of, I'm playing that down. I've always loved them, to be honest. But and I have a little midlife crisis rock band that I play drums and sing in, and we do some of their songs, and we do a bit of Pistols and everything in between. And So anyway, so we went right up to the side of the stage because obviously it was the second night, and I thought, I'm never going to get to stand this close to them again. That's never going to. I can always buy a ticket, but I can't stand here. But Dave Grohl saw me by the side of the stage, and 20 minutes later, he's whispering in my ear in front of 50,000 people, we're doing your tune, but a bit like Smells Like Teen Spirit. And I'm like, okay, Dave, great. Great, Dave, in front of 50,000 Foo fans.
Dave!
And then I won't say what I said now, obviously, because we're on the radio, but I screamed something at the audience, not to be rock and roll, but just because I'd had a few beers by then. I was jet lagged to hear them back. I just looked at all those people. I looked round at the band who I know obviously from all their music, but I literally never met them.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've got no idea what's going on or what's about to happen, but in for a penny, in for a pound. And it was just amazing. We had an absolute riot. And then, the band, my band and I and crew and whatever, we just watched the rest of the gig. And then they invited us backstage and we just hung out with them for a few hours. And it was just amazing. And I've done it with them a couple of times since. They've kind of, got in touch and sent me a text and saying, what are you doing tomorrow or what you know. So
I'm doing anything.
Pretty amazing. Yeah, well, exactly. And we went to California, actually. They've kind of reinvigorated the 70s festival again and kind of taken it on board to kind of curate it and everything. And so we went to that last year, I think it was, or the year before. Yeah. And that was pretty wild because I think when you're in the same... You're on the same festival, that's one thing, but to actually fly to LA to do it's a bit mad. Yeah. But it was just brilliant. It was just really good fun. I think they're one of those bands that you've got to admire, whether you like their music or you don't, because they've stood the test of time. They keep doing it. They're still playing. They're still rocking it. They're still headlining. They're still all those things. And and I think if you are a fan, it's kind of it's a golden moment to go and see them, really. So.
We're still with Rick Astley, the legend that is. Rick, I just, listen, thanks for staying with us, but I just wanted to ask you, I know that in those days you said to me you didn't fancy doing many gigs, but then you jumped out on they used to open up for Peter Kay, and then you had to Take That tour. What was the Take That tour like, by the way?
The Take That thing was amazing, to be honest. I mean, it's possibly that I've never, other than obviously with Peter Kay, I've never opened up for another band kind of thing, and that's not out of snobbery or any kind of thing to do it. It just never came along. And I think, it was the best possible one we could have ever done. The guys are great, obviously. They've got that catalogue of songs and they keep writing new great songs. They've got all that sorted. But it's them and the people they work with, the band and the crew and everybody that they work with. They're an absolute delight to be on tour with, because you hear all these horror stories sometimes of people, getting the crappy dressing rooms and all the rest of it and everything. But they were just amazing. They were really great. And so their audience as well are just bonkers. I mean, I've seen Take That over the years since when they started, been to different tours that they've done. Their audience are just full-on bonkers, and that's scary, but also amazing, because it's scary because you're the opening act, and do they care? Yeah. But I think we just won on so many different levels, because they were so ready to see those guys that they got in the room early. So we played pretty much to full houses, which was just nuts, because they just did, a week of arenas everywhere or more, and then football stadiums. So, and I've never done that. I've never done football stadiums. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. Yeah. So it was a really amazing tour to do, to be honest. And something I don't think we'll ever forget, really.
What about this new album that out there, The Best of Me at the moment?
Tell us about that. Just one of those things where I made 2 records previous to that, where I've, as we talked about before, where I've done them in the garage and done all of that. And the label that I'm with today is the label I used to be back in the day. And they've just looked at it all and said, look, you should do a best of at some point in your life, because you've got new songs now that your actual fans are happy to have in that collection. And one of my replies to that, to be honest, because of the internet thing, was, well, yeah, but it's already up there.
Yes, it's still there, yeah.
And again, being on the Take That tour was kind of interesting, because they have kind of reimagined and sort of looked at a lot of their old really big hits and stuff, and kind of redone them a little bit, you know what I mean? And watching their audience and just listening to those tunes in a different way and stuff. And other bands have done it as well, I guess. It just makes you think. So that's kind of what we did. We re-recorded 10 or 11 of the songs. So the old ones are all there, obviously, but then there's 10 or 11 new versions and a new tune. And it was just a nice thing to do. And it's kind of weird to take a song like Never Gonna Give You Up, which is 32 years old, I think now, or whatever it is, and completely redo it, just with a piano and a bit of this, and you know what I mean? And when we've played that live, just to a small audience, it's just some sort of warm-up style gigs for that album, if you like. It's just so weird, because people sit and listen to me sing it now rather than singing along with word one. Do you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I'm unbelievably grateful for that song and the fact that people do sing along with me, and I don't ever want that to stop.
Yeah.
But it's just been amazing to do like a slow ballad version of it and hear the words come out of my mouth differently.
Yeah.
It's just, I can't explain it, to be honest. You know what that's like. You've been singing certain favourites of yours for years.
Yeah.
And it's weird if you...
It's different singing Sven, though, Rick.
Well, I don't know. You don't know. Remix it, retry it.
I can't make it too soulful, you know. It's Golden Balls I can get away with, but Sven, I can't get away with.
Oh, genius.
What's next? What's coming up?
We're going to do the Albert Hall again this time, which is just, I mean, you know, I've sung there at certain charity things over the years and stuff, but it's just an amazing venue. I think it's one of those...
Yeah,
I don't know. I sang there at the Princess Trusts and also at the what used to be the Brits. It was called something else back then, but and that was back in like 87 and 88. And I was thinking, like, how literally, how did I get here? Do you know what I mean? It was one of those kind of things. And every time I walk in that room, I still feel the same. So
might have to come at that one. In fact, we should both say happy birthday to our mutual producer Gary Stevenson. It's his birthday today. Who introduced us both.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely,
I know he's.
Listen, I mean, I do speak to Gary at times and whatever. We text a bit and stuff, but yeah, I need to give him a call today. But
give him an happy birthday.
Yeah, no.
Do you know what? There was a great story that we. We was at Gary Stevenson's studio up in Oxford, in Ano there, and we were going out to dinner, and I went to sit in the front of the car, and he got in the other side, and you went to get in the back, and Gary said to me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "What?" And he said, No. He said, "You have to sit in the back. Only people who've had hit records can sit in the front." And it was about 10 years.
Gary.
It was Gary. And about 10 years later, I went up there and I said, "Am I all right sitting in the front?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you told me 10 years ago." He said, "Oh, you've had a hit record now. You can sit in the front."
Yeah, you've had a hit now. You're allowed in the front. No, he's a funny bloke, Gary. I mean, I've got so many great memories of even going back to the Isle of Man days when he had a studio there. And I learned a lot from Gary, I think, because obviously he was a very, very different style of producer to like the Stock Aitken Walkman guys, and that's all I knew in terms of making records. So. You know, I learned a lot, really, and he's made some great records over the years, and I know
one of the singles that he did do with you, so I'm going to try and get Mark, our producer, to play out, which is, I still love it. It was Cry for Help, your big hit in America as well, and I just, you know, it's just such a wonderful song and a wonderful vocal, so we're going to try and play that at some point throughout the show. Listen, Rick, I really appreciate you coming on. And
pleasure. We need to get out for a beer, Martin. That's what we need.
Listen, let's arrange it. We'll get Brad and a few of our old gang, and we're going to have a beer. Love to the family, love to Lena, Amelia, and everybody, and just
thank you, my
listen,
love, and you lot.
Stay in touch, and we look forward to the Albert Hall, by the way.
No worries. I'll text you when you're off air, love.
Wonderful. Rick Astley, everybody.
Contact us at the Belsy Podcast @gmail.com. Remember, Belsy, Belsy.
The Belsy Podcast is an MLEM production.